Hey, what's up, y'all? First of all, I just want to thank you all for the attention that I got on my last video. Now I definitely have to keep it up, man. So I'm really happy to bring this video to you right now. I think this will actually help you a lot, like it's helped me. Writing it down, I realized how important a lot of these principles are for men. Right now, there's a stigma right now. There's this thing that's going on that that women say, and even men say about other men, and we call it fragile masculinity. It's not even that toxic masculinity. And I don't really think that it's that. I think it's really the lack thereof. And it's like men innately know, that there is no masculinity there, and they try to overcompensate by just trying to bang on their chests and trying to keep a woman in her place. But really, the more feminine you are, the more masculine you can expect your counterpart to be, I would say, the ones that you attract. And that's where a lot of conflict is, because there isn't too many men out here who would like to be seen as feminine, or at the very least lacking masculine energy. But anyway, I'm gonna get right into it. First thing, I like to keep me a list. I'm writing in cursive. It's dark. I'm in the car, obviously. Don't want to wake anybody up. No gossiping and none of that catty shit, okay? And that's going to tie into my next point. But okay, we don't have time to be getting caught up in what everybody has to say about what's going on with the celebrities, what's going on in the media. We have things to do, and it's just a big distraction, bro. Like, gossiping can last hours, okay? And it's just it's not worth it. Obviously, people are making a living off of it. Most of us won't. This ain't the Wendy Williams show, and this ain't the news, okay? You're not getting paid to gossip. You're getting paid to work, to go after your goals. And it's gonna be more on that later. But you definitely don't want to get caught up in all that gossiping, catty shit. You leave that for the women when they have their wine time. And I would even recommend the women you don't get caught up in that gossiping, so no disrespect. But I just don't really feel like there's a lot of time for that, there's so much more out there, so it's a much bigger world out there, so you don't want to get caught up in that. And number two, like I said, it was tied to number one. You're purpose driven. You follow a plan. So I feel like a lot of us get caught up in things like gossip and all that, and more on that later. But a lot of us get caught up in the gossiping and things like that because we don't really actually have a plan. We aren't prioritizing in such a way. But we know what we want, and that we want to go after it. I mean, plain and simple. That's something that women find to be very attractive. But you're not doing it for women. You're not doing it to attract anybody. Really, you shouldn't be. Priorities are all messed up if that's the case. And let me see what we got next. Number 3, hunt/hunter's mindset. Now, I am a vegetarian. I don't actually go hunting or anything like that, but some things that I do is kind of based on chances, based on my efforts. It's the life of a hustler. You never really know what you're going to get. And I say this thing, and it's kind of a joke, but in reality, I kind of side with it. I would say that life is like a trap house. You can only go as far as your hustle will allow. I mean, now obviously, if you have a 9 to 5, it's different for you. It's different rules, and according to the statistics, most people are unhappy with what they do for a living anyway. So even more so, I would encourage you all to be on the hunt. All right, you gotta have that mindset, and you don't get upset, when things don't necessarily go your way, because you can always make things work in your favor. I have the luxury of being an animal fan, specifically or an animal lover, but specifically like wolves. So I've learned quite a bit from them. And what I've noticed is that wolves, they don't really hang their head too much about, oh, that deer got away from me, this, that, whatever. You just keep hunting until. Just until. Let your days melt into each other. I understand you got monthly bills and things like that, so you can make it work that way. You can consider, like, this month a whole day and just work that way. You don't got to get $3,000 to pay a bill in one day. You got to get it in a month. So you figure out how you do that, and you hunt until, okay? That's the freedom right there. Don't let people get you caught up in this 8 hours a day, or this is the cap of how much I can make today, and y'all don't get caught up in the micro like that. I mean, obviously you want to focus on now, but understand that this is a marathon. Shout out to Nipsey Hussle, rest in peace. This is a marathon, okay? It's not a sprint. Now, as time goes on, you can obviously pick up speed and do more within this marathon. But if that takes any pressure off you, I'm glad, because that's just the mentality that I'm taking on right now. And I'm not completely perfect with these things, but I've gotten to a point where I understand the benefits of it, and it does work for me. Number 4, tell the truth / admit fault, man. I don't know if it's just me, but I can't live with having something resting on my conscience, man. Like, yeah, it hurts to tell the truth at times, but it's worth it, okay? You start the healing process that way, and the confidence that you get from knowing that you don't have to lie to anybody, you have nothing to hide, it just feels so good. It feels like I feel right now. But when you got guilt, when you have guilt in your heart, guilt in your mind, whatever, you're not living your exact truth, things like that, it eats at you. It doesn't allow you to do freeing things. It forces you into a box. It forces you to have to uphold the same lies you've been telling yourself, for X amount of time, and it's just not worth it, man. Especially if you're trying to please people, because we understand that people come and go. So I wouldn't even try to attach my validation to any one person. Okay, always be truthful, even if it means that you will stand alone, even if it means that you get clowned for it. Okay, it is worth it. I would say a lot of people are lost anyway, so don't get caught in the facade that these people have it figured out, and now you want to mirror what you think they have going for them, and they may be mirroring things in themselves, and they're afraid to take risks, and they're afraid to live in their truth. I don't know, but all I'm saying is you focus on yourself and be truthful. Number 5, emotionally stable. Now, this was a tough thing for me growing up because of some of the things that I saw. I didn't have a father figure growing up, and some of my earliest memories was of my mom getting the shit beat out of her. And from that moment, I actually knew that I wasn't going to partake in things like that, which is a lesson in itself. I didn't write it down on this list, but I would think that it's a no-brainer, but obviously it's not. I'll tie it to the I'll actually tie it to being emotionally stable. You don't hit women, okay? We don't do that. It is just, why? Not worth it, You have to keep your cool. You keep it cool. You don't do stupid shit like that, Now, there have been many times where emotion has is definitely overcome me. And I definitely wanted to. And I wanted to do things worse than that. But there are tactics that you take so you don't find yourself in a trap like that, like a lot of men have. And, actually that's why my mom got the shit beat out of her. She was dealing with an emotionally unstable man. Now, as far as I'm concerned, she only got beat by one man, who's my brother's stepfather. But I'm not too sure. And in any regard, I know she was dealing with a bunch of unstable men anyway, if you could call them men. Um, and that ties into the no caddy shit, you know, because when you're emotionally unstable as a man, it's not uncommon to do some catty shit. In fact, my uncle is like that. He's the worst. He's probably the worst man I've ever met. And guys, take it from me, because I got compared to him a lot when I was younger for some reason. You don't want to be like this man. He's 50 something years old. He lives in his mom's basement, and he doesn't even have a room. He just sleeps in the goddamn corner. He's the most miserable man ever. He spent a lot of his fucking time calling my mom all types of fat bitches, and there have been many occasions where he threatened to, punch her in the face, do this and that. I intervene, because obviously nobody's gonna treat my mom that way. I don't give a fuck how you feel about that or how you feel about me. Nobody's gonna treat my mom that way. But he did things like that. He pushed everybody away because he never realized, he never found out how to deal with his emotions like a man, because he grew up without a father figure too. But after a while, that makes no difference. I grew up without a father, like I said, but I still figured it out. My brothers grew up without a father, and they ain't on that shit. And these are my little brothers, okay? But like, you don't want to be like him. He has demons that wake him up in the middle of the night, and he's not aligning with his truth. He can't push his pride aside to admit all of his faults. He just wants to live in that same life and ruminate and dwell in it, and he'll die a miserable death, because death doesn't necessarily have to be miserable, I would say. But I think we live and die by the same things, okay? I don't want to get too personal, but it's worth saying because this is real. Okay, I lived this, I've seen it. I'm always observing. Number 6, just push past the limits. Every game we play is mostly mental. If we consider it a war or what have you, it's mental. And going that extra mile will make all the difference. Now, I played a little football back in my day, and one thing that my coach taught me that you can apply to life is that you should run through the finish line. You see the line, you don't stop as you get there and slow down. No. You even speed it up if you can, but run through it. Run through it as if the line was a little bit further. Okay? You get in the habit of doing that, then you'll start to see that your perceived limits were just that, perceived. It's what you thought was a limit. And time after time, day after day, we have people who are willing to push past the limits for whatever reason. And you tie that to your purpose. You tie that to the fact that you are emotionally stable enough to where you're not having to spend your energy on, just going through the ebbs and flows of emotions and trying to recover from them, because it definitely does take a toll on you. And I know this from somebody who's suffered from anxiety and depression, but not so much now. I'm on the up and up, thankfully. But you definitely want to push past the limits, and that will set you apart. As I've heard and as I've been taught, is that it's pretty easy to be average. All you got to do is show up. And although I feel like there are a lot of positions where you don't necessarily have to be competitive with other people, I would still aim to outdo most people. But really you should be outdoing yourself. And so long as you try to outdo yourself, no lies about it, you actually do it, I think you'll end up outdoing people anyway. So I don't really think it's that hard. But if you let's say you're a writer, because I am a writer, and by the way, I'm gonna put the link down to some of my books. You give them a look or whatever. Let's say I set a limit for myself. I say, okay, I want to write 1,000 words today. But as I get there, I'm like, man, you know what? I got a little more in the tank. How about I get to 1,200? Now, that's not something I always want to do when it comes to writing, because I like to set myself up for the future. But, tomorrow may not come, So, in this present moment, I want to go beyond, and that's all. But obviously, you don't want to push past limits when it comes to like women, for example. You kind of want to play it a little shorter than that. You don't want to give anybody the wrong impression of you. You don't want to put them in a position where they think you are desperate for them, that you're thirsty, and things like that. It's adverse effects. But when I say push past limits, I just mean the perceived limits in your mind. It's your perception of it, which can be influenced by the people around you, the people who raised you, your friends, whatever. Number 7, pay the cost. Let's say you want to be a barber, you want to go to barber school, whatever. It might be quite a long road. I don't know if it takes 6 months or what have you, but you know that you won't necessarily be getting paid for being a barber until you actually become a barber, and you're in the, you got your own chair, you're in the shop, whatever, and you're renting your chair or what have you. And you're looking for ways to make some money right now instead. And I would advise that you actually go for both. But definitely pay the cost. You see the overhead, it might be $300, it might be $600. I actually don't know. It's the first thing that came to mind. But you want to pay that cost as soon as possible, and you don't want no complaints about it. If you know it's the right decision, you focused on it long enough, you just do it, and then you cover your ass. Okay? So if you say, okay, I'm gonna pay to be a barber, I'm gonna go to barber school, whatever, pay attention to every lesson, every curve, every cut, everything. And then you study when you're not in school. Always be a student, always look to get better and things like that. That's just a little side lesson. That's part of being an alpha male as well, I would say. So there you go, a little freebie. In fact, all of this is free, really, because you're on YouTube. So I definitely hope that helps, because a lot of times I get in my own way by saying, oh, well, damn, this might put me in a hole right now, man. It's just like, come on, that's $300, that's $600 right there, come on. But you just gotta believe that it's gonna, that it'll come back to you in one way or the other. And everybody's always looking to get their haircuts. I cut my own hair because I gave up hope on it, because I'm starting to go a little bald up here. That's okay. I just shave it, I just shave it and keep a nice buzz cut. But anyway, you pay the cost, whatever it is, whatever that cost is in your mind. Okay, do it. Which brings me to number 8. You just don't complain. Okay, you've gotten this far, my friends. Who's to say you can't make it another day, another week, another month, another decade? You can. It's complaining just gets in the way. And of course, I noticed this through my own life, but through observing others, I watched people complain about things that they were going to end up making it through anyway. And very simply put, because I'm sure you've heard this many times, you don't complain over the things you can change, and you damn sure don't complain over the things you can't change. So basically, you just don't complain. There's really no room for that. Now, the initial complaints I can understand. If something pops up in your mind, it's just like, oh damn, that's fucked up. Okay, obviously you got to have some discernment. Obviously, you got to be able to weed through the conflicts in your mind and things like that. You definitely have to acknowledge them. I'm not saying that you just look the other way and say, oh, my life is great, my life is fantastic, nothing's happening, everything's perfect. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you don't get too caught up on things like that. You wake up in the morning, you complain, oh shit, I gotta go to work. You knew you had to go to work. You knew that. So it's nothing to complain about. Oh, I'm tired. And of course you're tired. Alright? You're tired for a reason. Whether no matter if you didn't get enough sleep or just the fact that, hey, you just woke up. But there's even, ways to resolve that issue. Because I don't really know too much about supplements, but I know that there are some supplements that will help you, get a little spring in your step the moment you wake up. You want to talk to GNC about that, not me. And also there are other things like exercising and eating well, that'll make you feel more fulfilled when you wake up in the morning. So we don't complain. Obviously life is rough. Life is rough for all of us. We all have our trials and tribulations. We don't need to be trying to tell other people how bad our life is, and we compare notes about how bad life is, unless we're going to actually do something about it. And number 9, I mentioned it earlier, prioritize, okay? Yeah, it's cool to hang around the pretty women. It's cool, it's okay to drink every once in a while, have a little smoke if that's what you want. But you never put that above your own, ambitions, your own dreams and things. You got to stand for something, man. For real. And I remember a time, it just doesn't really feel that long ago, where, I would push everything aside for the sake of, stimuli, the things that would make me feel good, and at face value say, oh, you're supposed to feel good, but at what cost? At what cost? Why would I put aside working on my dreams to hang around a woman because there's a chance that we might have sex? And that's the only thing I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about what she could bring to my life, what I can give to her. I'm thinking about sex. I'm thinking about being available to have sex. And always being available, guys, that's danger. That is danger. Even if you work for yourself, even if you got no job, you do not always want to be available. That will put you in the friend zone. Or if you manage to get with this woman, you get in a relationship or something like that, it ain't gonna last long, because she can like, man, this man has nothing going for him. Meanwhile, she gonna go to work and she gonna see all these ambitious ass men, or men gonna hit her up if she's fine enough, and that's just gonna really intimidate you, and it's gonna put you in a state of just being really emotional, unsure about yourself. You can be bitter, and you're gonna do bitter things, okay? And we don't want any of that. So we prioritize. Even if a woman is like, look, I want to see you this weekend, yada yada yada, it's even implied that it might be a little sex or whatever. If you know you got a lot of work to do, you got something to do this weekend, you can hey, there's a chance, but I really have a lot to do. I'm gonna handle my business, and she'll respect you for that. No need to worry about oh damn, she gonna go to the next man if I don't make myself available, because there's plenty of fish in the sea, and it ain't hard for women, to get a man. You can't worry about that, man. Yeah, there are plenty of fish in the sea. Plenty of fish in the sea for her. Plenty of fish in the sea for you. It doesn't matter if it's harder for you to catch them or not. You focus on your purpose, the right people will come. You prioritize, the right people will come. But if you try to, put pleasure ahead of your priorities, you just gonna let it all slip away anyway. And I'd rather be lonely with my dreams fulfilled than to have someone around me for X amount of time with nothing to show for myself, and I'm just going off of, let's say if she introduced me to her family and things like that, I'm just like, you got to talk yourself up, and so what are you up to? Oh yeah, working on a novel, yeah, I got a little poetry book, So it's best to actually have some things going for you, even if it means you got to eat shit for 10 years or so. It's worth it, man. So, and the final thing, number 10, no comparison. Now, when I say no comparison, I meant don't compare yourself in a way that's going to debilitate you, okay? So if you see something like, okay, Lil Wayne had 5 albums by the time he was 23, I don't know if that's true, but as I'm thinking about it, that may actually be right. And in fact, he probably had more albums then, but that's the first thing that come to mind. So if you look at something like that as a means to push yourself, then I think there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're the type of person, you see people your age, your peers, on social media showing off their new houses and thanking God, and you just don't know, you can do it too, I'm so grateful. Like, there's no reason to be bitter about that. There's no reason to, to feel hurt about that. You just use everything as motivation, man, because the truth is actually not as pretty as it may come off as. Like, yeah, sure, they got that new house, but maybe they can't really afford to lose their job, okay? So you don't want to take everything at face value, because people, Facebook, for example, where I spend a lot of my time, they give you the highlight reel. Obviously we got people who complain a lot on there, but they give you the highlight reel. They're not gonna give you their ugliest pictures. They're not gonna show you pictures of them, with their diarrhea, or bad hair day or whatever, unless they're just trying to fish for compliments or something, and they know that bad hair day isn't that bad. So we can save ourselves a lot of hurt by just understanding that that's their story, that's their life, and if they can make that happen for themselves, you can make it happen for yourself. You just have to be patient, okay? I'm tying everything together right now. Being patient, and that's part of being a hunter, okay? Now, obviously, you got to know when to snap. You got to know when to strike. But you have to practice patience, my friends. I hope this helped. I really appreciate the support so far. And it's time to get this YouTube page jumping. All right? Take care, guys. And ladies, if you were listening to this as a lady. All right.